India's super global flex. India bows to none. Forges its own path. After Modi Putin, now Modi-Biden handshake. Critics can moan, this is India's path.
All right, leaders in the Quad Summit have heaped praises for India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the Quad Summit continues. US President Joe Biden praised Modi for handling the COVID-19 pandemic quite successfully and contrasted India's success with China's failure to handle the pandemic. He added that Prime Minister Modi's success showed the world that democracies can deliver and busted the myth that autocracies like China and Russia can handle the rapidly changing world better. According to sources, these remarks from President Biden appear to be unscripted, as he made a special intervention to say this before his prepared remarks. In fact, newly elected Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said that vaccines supplied by India to other countries have made a difference on the ground, and that such a success is more valuable than just winning a theoretical debate of ideas. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has also appreciated India's contribution, recalled how Indian-made vaccines delivered under the Quad Vaccine Initiative were received with gratitude in Thailand and Cambodia recently.
Prime Minister Modi, it's wonderful to see you again in person. Thank you for your continuing commitment to making sure democracies deliver. Because that's what this is about, democracies versus autocracies, and we have to make sure we deliver.
Let me cut across to Gaurav Sawant joining us more on that. Gaurav, Prime Minister Narendra Modi appreciated for the COVID-19 bounce back that India has boasted of our vaccine rollout extensively, which we also went ahead and helped several nations at that point during the COVID explosion. Here are the Quad nations who really raise a toast to Prime Minister Modi and India's sustained efforts to fight this pandemic as compared to many other developed nations across the world.
Nabila, this is high praise for India. This is praise that comes for India's efforts in combating COVID. Prime Minister Narendra Modi being appreciated by the US President, by the Australian Prime Minister and the Japanese Prime Minister, talking about India's fight back. And, you'd recall what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said when he was interacting with the Indian diaspora in Japan, when he said the biggest pandemic, everyone was in the dark on how to combat it. And this is where India came up with not one, but two vaccines. One made in India vaccine, the Covaxin, and of course, Covishield, AstraZeneca. India not only vaccinated people here, but provided vaccines to over 100 countries. And, the Quad nations spoke of two countries in particular, Thailand and Cambodia. The medicines that were sent, or the vaccines that were sent to Cambodia, the head of government of Cambodia was personally there at the airport to receive those vaccines. And this shows the significance and the importance. One more point, when US President Joe Biden talked about autocracy versus democracy, you have China in lockdown even today. China facing a huge problem with COVID-19. Look at India and the way India has been able to bounce back. The efficacy of the Indian vaccine versus the lack of efficacy of the Chinese vaccine. The Chinese vaccine, according to some assessment, only 38% is their efficacy as against the vaccines made by India that have actually helped not just people in India, but people in over 100 countries. Nabila.
Undoubtedly, and that was what was appreciated highly at that Quad meet, and clearly for something for India to boast of. At this point, we're also looking at bilateral relations between the Quad nations really strengthening. And this was the first time possibly Prime Minister Modi had an in-person meet with Joe Biden, and we believe he moved away from his prepared speech for a few minutes to try and appreciate India and thank India for the kind of COVID-19 preparedness and the vaccine rollout. All right, here is a live visual coming in of Prime Minister Modi at that Quad meet. He's with his Japanese counterpart, a former Japanese Prime Minister, beg your pardon. He's currently with the former Japanese Prime Minister. He's currently in Japan, this Quad summit is taking place, where the 4 Quad nations, including India, United States, Japan and Australia, are coming together to try and understand what's best to be done along the Indo-Pacific region. Now, there's much discussion on what best or how best to develop the Indo-Pacific region, and we believe a decision to invest $50 billion within the Indo-Pacific region has been made by the 4 Quad nations, including India, Japan, Australia and the United States. Apart from that, of course, we're seeing a bid by the Prime Minister to position India as an investment hub. This is what the Prime Minister has said time and again, and that's what he tries to do as he positions the country as the best place for investment at this point. Of course, a lot of talk on trade, on defense, on investments was made and was put forth on the table by Prime Minister Modi as he had one-on-one conversations with Australian Prime Minister as well as United States Prime Minister Joe Biden. Well, Prime Minister Modi has been hailed for his preparedness on the COVID-19. Of course, the way the country has fought back, the vaccine rollout, all of that was extensively discussed. And post that appreciation and praise came the real discussion on trade, on investment, defense, and a lot more. Of course, this Quad summit now to be deciding on discussing extensively on development within the Indo-Pacific region. Now, Prime Minister Modi is speaking with the former Prime Minister of Japan. But of course, one saw the kind of bonhomie that Prime Minister shared with United States Prime Minister Joe Biden. This is a one-on-one bilateral talk that he's had with Joe Biden to further strengthen United States and India's mutual ties. Now, at the bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi and the United States President both shared much conversation and commitment to strengthen US-India partnership and ties, and also said that that the bond between the two nations, both the Prime Ministers agreed that the bond between the United States and India has only grown leaps and bounds over the last few years. The talk particularly stressed on the post-pandemic recovery. Now, recovery in terms of the economy, trade, investments, technology, and also creating a resilient US-India supply chain. This is what exactly was discussed between Joe Biden and Prime Minister Modi. Both the world leaders have now been in regular contact through virtual and in-person meets. Now, of course, this comes very crucial. Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting comes very crucial at a point where we're seeing an all-out war in Ukraine by Russia, where India has maintained a diplomatic stance, has maintained mum, while Joe Biden and the United States, of course, have been largely hitting out at Russia and condemning it for the large-scale war crimes that's been carried out. So amid this kind of animosity, we see that the two world leaders, United States President Joe Biden and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, both of them had a healthy discussion and a talk on strengthening India-US relationship, on how the two countries can really bolster ties when it comes to trade, when it comes to investment, defense, and a lot more that was talked upon. The two have met virtually, again, like I mentioned, last 3 occasions. This seems like the first in-person meet where Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden spoke extensively face-to-face. This Quad virtual summit that was held in March 2021. Due to the pandemic, it was virtual. There was the meeting on similar lines and similar agenda happened virtually at that point. So this certainly has come as the first in-person meeting between the global leaders.
क्वाड और कल घोषित आईपीएफ इसके सक्रिय उदाहरण हैं। आज हमारी चर्चा से इस पॉजिटिव मोमेंटम को और गति मिलेगी। मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत और अमेरिका की मित्रता, वैश्विक शांति और स्थिरता, प्लेनेट की सस्टेनेबिलिटी और मानव जाति के कल्याण के लिए एक फोर्स फॉर गुड बनी रहेगी। हम दोनों ही देश के इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के बारे में भी समान नजरिया रखते हैं और न सिर्फ द्विपक्षीय स्तर पर बल्कि अन्य लाइक माइंडेड देशों के साथ अपने साझा मूल्यों और साझा हितों को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। हमारे पीपल टू पीपल रिलेशंस और घनिष्ठ आर्थिक संबंधों में भी हमारी पार्टनरशिप को यूनिक बनाते हैं। हमारे बीच ट्रेड और निवेश में भी निरंतर विस्तार होता जा रहा है, यद्यपि ये हमारे पोटेंशियल से अभी बहुत कम है। मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारे बीच इंडिया यूएसए इन्वेस्टमेंट इंसेंटिव एग्रीमेंट से निवेश की दिशा में कॉन्क्रीट प्रगति देखने को मिलेगी।
We also discussed the ongoing effects of Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine and the effect it has on the entire global world order. And the U.S. and India are going to continue consulting closely on how to mitigate these negative effects. I'm pleased that we've reached agreement for the U.S. Development Finance Corporation to continue its important work in India, supporting vaccine production, clean energy initiatives, and I'm also glad we're renewing the Indo-U.S. Vaccine Action Program. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework and the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Program that's going to bring India and the United States together with other nations to reflect our vision for a more open, more prosperous, connected, and secure world.
All right, we saw the kind of bond that the two shared, the bonhomie rather, between the two nations. But this certainly has come as a huge boost for India at this point, because the Quad Summit indeed appreciated India's efforts extensively on multiple grounds. Let me take you through some of those key takeaways that we saw of this Quad Summit. Now, we see that this is indeed big testimony to India's Vishwaguru prowess. In fact, Biden's impromptu praise of Prime Minister Modi's governance was another takeaway, where he literally deviated from his prepared speech to praise Prime Minister Modi and India's bounce back after COVID-19. And of course, the kind of appreciation and the comparison that the Quad nation leaders made of India's fight with COVID-19 versus China's fight, which was an epic failure. And then a takeaway 4 here of this entire the Quad Summit, where we're looking at Biden speaking of how Prime Minister Modi has really shown how democracies as large as India can really deliver. And then, of course, Japan, Australia praising India about Indian vaccine rollout and how it's really saved the world. And several nations who've received Indian vaccines have really appreciated it and shown much gratitude over this supply. We're also looking at the praises for Prime Minister Modi's flagship vaccine, Maitri. It's not one, but 2 vaccines that India rolled out, and India was really extensively generous while giving out vaccines to several nations who were at that point in desperate and dire need. Now, we're also looking at this Quad meet becoming the biggest assertion here, undoubtedly, for India's rising global stature. Gaurav Sawant, who's tracking these developments there at the Quad Summit, tells us more on that. Gaurav, give us your perspective on how you see the Quad nation leaders really appreciating India's bounce back and many layers of credit that they gave to India when it comes to vaccine rollout, the way that we fought the pandemic and compared to China, and just to see how India is rising in the global stage or a global stature that we really now can boast of, makes us proud. Prime Minister Modi, who's currently at that meet, visuals coming in live of the Quad Summit. What's to be expected post this Quad meeting today?
The efforts to checkmate China and the efforts to ensure that rule-based order is followed in the Indo-Pacific region. And that is where India will play a very critical role in not just in the Indian Ocean, but also in the Pacific Ocean, because this is where the 4 powerful democracies come together: Australia, Japan, India, and the United States of America, to ensure rule-based order is followed, sea lanes of communication remain safe, and dark fishing, and this is something that all countries are emphasizing on. Again, an effort to checkmate China, because dark fishing, dark shipping is something that talks a lot about illegal activities at sea. Dark shipping has a lot to do with either illegal fishing or smuggling and a lot of other activities that technology can play a very key role in checkmating. So that is how you ensure that countries like China, that are increasingly becoming more expansionist, not just in South and East China Sea, but also in Aksai Chin, Ladakh, that is where a rule-based order is followed. So there is a tremendous emphasis on how Quad countries need to come together and use technology. Also, digital engagement. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was talking about 40% of all digital transactions are happening in India. How do you ensure that they remain free from fraud? All of this also remains a part of the conversation where countries, powerful democracies, move forward together in an effort also to help smaller democracies in this region that may otherwise feel the pressure of an expansionist China.
All right, Gaurav, do stay with us. This, of course, has been a jam-packed meeting with much talk about defense and also trade investment, as India has positioned itself extensively as an investment hub. The day two of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's whirlwind tour in Tokyo seems to have been quite fruitful. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the leaders of the United States, Japan, Australia attended the second in-person meeting of Quad leaders, during which they exchanged views about developments in the Indo-Pacific region and global issues of mutual interest. Delivering his opening remarks by hailing the alliance, Prime Minister Modi has said that he said that Quad has made an important place for itself before the world in such a short span of time. Modi has further said that the Quad's scope has become extensive, while reiterating the shared goal of a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. The Quad was formed to counter China's influence in the Indo-Pacific summit. China has been fuming against the Quad summit, calling it a failed agenda. On the Quad's agenda today will be a range of varied topics, though, from past the COVID fight to the COVID recovery, Ukraine war, and of course climate change, which is on the table to discuss extensively. But the main message here is to serve a warning to China and its aggression tactics. United States President Joe Biden has already hardened his stance there, saying that US is ready to arm Taiwan in its defense against China's aggression if need be.
एक्सेलेंसीज, इतने कम समय में क्वाड समूह ने विश्व पटल पर एक महत्वपूर्ण स्थान बना लिया है। आज क्वाड का स्कोप व्यापक हो गया है और स्वरूप प्रभावी हो गया है। हमारा आपसी विश्वास, हमारा डिटर्मिनेशन लोकतांत्रिक शक्तियों को नई ऊर्जा और उत्साह दे रहा है। क्वाड के स्तर पर हमारे आपसी सहयोग से एक फ्री, ओपन और इंक्लूसिव इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र को प्रोत्साहन मिल रहा है। कोविड-19 की विपरीत परिस्थितियों के बावजूद हमने वैक्सीन डिलीवरी, क्लाइमेट एक्शन, सप्लाई चेन रेजिलियंस, डिजास्टर रिस्पांस और आर्थिक सहयोग जैसे कई क्षेत्रों में आपसी समन्वय बढ़ाया है। इससे इंडो पैसिफिक में शांति, समृद्धि और स्थिरता सुनिश्चित हो रही है। क्वाड इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के लिए एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव एजेंडा लेकर चल रहा है। इससे क्वाड की छवि एक फोर्स फॉर गुड के रूप में और भी सुदृढ़ होती जाएगी।
All right, now, Paulami Sahab, India Today's correspondent, who's currently tracking all those developments at the Quad Summit live. She's in Japan, and while she was there, she saw several protesters in Tokyo who were seen raising banners against China outside the Japanese Prime Minister's office in Tokyo, demanding the Quad to raise action against China's expansionism agenda. This comes at a time when the United States, Japan, Australia and India held this Quad Summit, which China was confident would soon fail. Paulami Sahab brings us this report from that protest site.
Right outside the Japanese Prime Minister's office in Tokyo, where the Quad Summit has just concluded and the bilaterals have also concluded, you can see these protesters who've gathered over here bearing these placards, which basically say, as you can see, Quad requested action to the Quad Summit. They want the Quad to act against China, become the breakwater of the China's expansionism. They're protesting China's expansionism. Realize the free and open Indo-Pacific is what they stand for. They have their various causes, but the concern area is one, China. What are you protesting over here, sir?
South Mongolia.
You're from South Mongolia. Okay. What about the protest placard that you're holding? What do you want to say about China?
We protest for the I'm keeping a support and request to Quad
To sanction China, to sanction China. That is their request as well. Become the breakwater of China's expansionism. So what are you protesting here today?
Yes, I also asked sanction to China.
Okay, so you're Japanese, but you're supporting their cause.
Yes, I'm Japanese. Yes.
Ma'am, you say do not allow Chinese hegemony. That is what. Where are you from and what are you protesting?
I'm from East Turkestan.
Okay.
China is that country. China genociding Uyghur people.
Okay.
3 million, 5 million Uyghur people, China genociding.
And you want the Quad to act against China because of the genocide of the Uyghur people.
Yes.
Okay, so that is your that is the demand that you make from the Quad summit and its leaders. As you can see over here, this gentleman also, in fact, is a Uyghur. He's also holding up a poster. Can you tell us, ma'am, what's on his poster?
She's three years old, very young Uyghur woman.
Okay.
China
Kidnapping you. Oh, okay. So China has killed her, and he is a Uyghur as well.
In Tokyo.
Uyghur man family genociding your here family. Genociding my family, genociding here family.
Okay, so that is the protest that they're making over here. They're saying these people of Uyghurs, basically they're saying that China has abducted their family, China has kidnapped their family members, China is killing their family members, and they want the Quad summit and its leaders to sanction China, to not allow Chinese hegemony to break away, in fact to ensure that China's expansionist policy, where it is expanding its wings across the Indo-Pacific in its aggression, is stopped immediately. And that is the request that they make of the Quad summit. With Shweta Singh, Polemista in Tokyo for India Today.
All right, huge boost to India's global stature. The Quad summit continues. India Today tracks all those developments. You could log on to indiatoday.in. You could also download our app. For more on that, stay tuned. I'm going to come back with the top headlines.